We are back, finishing up this first week with a review of graphing lines. This is going to come in a little bit later into this unit, dealing with solving systems of equations. It's going to be one of our options, so I thought it'd be a good idea to take a quick peek at graphing lines to see how things are going to be going here. So when we're graphing lines, a couple of things to keep in mind in general that we'll take a look at here at the top of our page. When we're looking at the slope of a line, okay, the steepness of a line, a couple of things we want to look at. When our slope is positive, okay, like it is in number 2 or number 4, those lines are going to be going up to the right. Okay? When we have a slope that is negative, we're going to be having lines that are going down to the right. Okay, so it's a little hint on what my line should look like before I even start. So if something doesn't look right after I plot my points, I'm like, wait a minute, that's supposed to be, it's positive, it's supposed to be going up to the right. What happened? I can kind of think about it a little bit. Okay, the other thing I want you to keep in mind is when we're graphing, most of the time things are going to be in what's called slope-intercept form, y equals mx plus b, where, let's get that out of the way, m is my slope, and b is my y-intercept. And typically, we're going to be doing our y-intercept first and our slope second. So just a couple of general notes to think about as we're doing these. Okay? So, very first one, we have a little bit of an issue. Y equals negative 2/5 x. You're like, well, wait a minute. There's no b. There's no y-intercept. If I don't see a value here at the end, what do we assume that value is going to be? We assume that's going to be 0. Okay. So since this is my y-axis and this is my y-intercept, my first point is going to be on the y-axis, so I put it at 0. The other question that we have to keep in mind here is, what do I do with that negative? Like, is that negative go on the 2 and the 5, just the 2, just the 5? How do I tell the difference? And here's the answer to that. You get to pick which number it's on, but only one number. Typically, I put it on the numerator number when I do it like this. And so when we're doing slope, you may have heard rise over run. Okay? Rise over run means the number on top is going to tell me if I'm going up or down. Since it's negative in this case, it would be down. And the number on the bottom tells me left or right. And if it's positive, that's going to be right. And if this is something you've struggled with, I would actually write them down like this. And then you start from that first dot, okay, wherever that y-intercept was. I go 2 down, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the right. Now, typically, we like to get 3 points for the line. Well, why? Well, what if I screwed one of them up? I'm really not going to notice. Well, Hardy, but if I try to go 2 down and 5, I'm going to be like way off the chart here. I guess I could do that, but what do I do otherwise? Which is a good question. What you can also do is the opposites of both of these. You're like, wait, what? So you mean like go 2 up and 5 left? Yep. If I go 2 up and 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to the left, they form a line, which is a good thing. Okay, they're not off in some other crazy direction. Here's the other thing we could have noticed. We have a negative slope. Negative slopes go down to the right, and so does my graph. So it makes me feel like I did it correctly, okay, or at least gives me a little bit of more of a hope that I did it correctly as far as that goes. Okay, number 2. This time, we have a y-intercept. It's at negative 1. I go down 1. Again, that first point, typically going to be on our y-axis here, our vertical axis. That's important. I can't just flip it over to x and say that's fine. My slope My m is 1/5. So what we're going to do as we're doing that is we're going to do like we did before. Okay? +1 would be up. +5 would be to the right. Up 1, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, same problem we had in the last one. We always wish we could just keep going the same direction. That makes it easier, but that's not always going to be the case. So here again, if I get stuck going one way, I go back to my y-intercept and I just do the opposite. So I'm going to go 1 down and 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 left. I look, it's a positive slope, +1/5, which means my graph should be going up to the right, and it does. Rock on. Okay. Now this time, this sheet is kind of a half assignment, half note type thing. So I'm going to jump around a little bit more than I normally would with a lot of these. So I'm going to skip the next couple for right now. I'm going to leave those for you. We've got a couple of good examples there at the top. And we are going to flip the page. And we're going to hit up one more here in the back, because there's one more little catch that can kind of make problems sometimes. And here's what we're going to look at here. Okay, -2x - 4. You're like, this doesn't look like a problem. There's my y-intercept. -4. Put that down there. But then we get to our normal slope. Now here's where people run into trouble sometimes, because they'll look and they'll say, oh, the slope is -2. Well, that -2 would be down 2. So they go down 2 and they put a dot and they get a vertical line going through there. And that's not what we want here. All slopes are fractions. So if you get a whole number, put it over 1. Because now you can look at your slope if you have -2/1, and you can just say, hey, negative is down, positive on the bottom is right, down 2, and right 1. Dang, ran out of room again. That won't happen to you every time, I'll say that much. So again, if I run out of room, go back up. We do opposites. Up 2, left 1. Negative slope means to be going down to the right, which this is, and I feel good. Okay, that's all we're doing with the graphing as far as that goes. Then, writing the slope-intercept form of the equation of the line again. To do that, I've got to know my slope and I got to know my y-intercept. So I look at my first line here. And I go, okay, where does it cross the y-axis? Right here at -2. So my b value is -2. I got that part. That'll always be the easiest part, hopefully. Okay. Now, how do I find my slope? Well, here's one thing I know. It's going up to the right. So is it positive or negative? Positive. Now, the other thing I got to do is I got to find myself one more point so I can count. So where do I find these points? I kind of call this crosshairs. What I'm going to do is I'm going to follow along, and if I see a place where my line is crossing in between kind of these X points where they intersect the horizontal and the vertical lines like this, I can pick any of those. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to count. So I can count between any of these two, and I say, hey, I went up 1 and I went right 1. Or I went up 2 and I went right 2. And I write that down. And so once I have that, now I can make my equation. Y is my m, 1/1, x minus 2. Y-intercept, up 1, right 1. Up 1, right 1. And I can see that once I write it. Okay? Now, there's a couple of little twists and turns with these too. So we're going to do a couple more, and then I will get this out of the way here momentarily. So what we're going to do is the same idea. We're going to look. Okay, we're going to do number 10. And I'm like, okay, way up here for my b. So b = equals 5. So let's see here. Now, my slope. This one I'm having to look a little bit more because it's not really obvious to me where that cross point's going to be. Because I start to follow, I'm like, yep, that's not in a cross here. This one you might be able to talk me into, even though if I really look close, it doesn't quite look like it's getting there. So I'm kind of following along. And to me, I don't see another point that crosses right at those crosshairs until down here. Now, would I mark it wrong if you counted that one? No, that's really close. So if I did that one, I'm like, oofda, how do I get there? Well, if I start here to get down there, I'm trying to figure out how far do I go down, how far do I go over. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I went down 9, and I went right 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And it does not matter which way you go. Because if I'd have gone from here to here, it would have been -5, but it would have been +9. I'll end up with the same at the end. So my slope is down 9, right 5. We can get fractions on this. But once I get that, y equals mx plus b. And I'm set. Okay. One more. I'm going to try and keep that one on the screen here so we can have an option to look here. This is another one of those good situations, if you've been a little iffy, to pause me right now. Try number 12 on your own and then unpause me when you're done so you can kind of see if this is going well. So I'll wait a second here just to make sure, if you want to do that, that you've got a chance to before I jump in. All right, so I'm jumping in. Hopefully you paused me at this point if you were going to. There's my y-intercept. So my b is at -5. And so now again, I start looking. What do we got here? Start following my way up. Could that be one? Again, it's really close. I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong if you went with that one. Let's just see. I don't see another. Are we in another situation that it's all the way up here? Okay. So again, if you went with this one, you're going to get a slightly different answer than I did, but it won't end up counting against you in this case. So I looked, and again, I'm going to count my rise and my run. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, up, so it'll be positive. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, well, heck, 5 again. And 5 to the right, which is also positive. So here my slope would be +9 over 5. It actually ended up being a ton different from that other one that we took a look at before. Y equals mx. And if you wrote plus -5, that's okay. That's not going to be a big deal either. So try out some of the other ones on here. Also, with the graphing lines, we have a couple of practices online, okay, with quizzes, which isn't a bad thing to jump into. And one of them is going to be like a quiz, the second one. So again, take your time when you're doing this. You've got this available, okay? You've got some backup. Give them a try, and any of the online stuff, you're at least always going to get 2 tries on to be able to see how that goes. So just take your time, learn it a bit, and give that a go, and we'll see you the next time.